The Woody Johnson situation continues to get crazier as a bombshell report from The Athletic has revealed some potential interesting stories involving Joe Douglas, Aaron Rodgers, Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich, Mike White, and many others, as apparently Woody Johnson and his family is way more insane than we ever thought was possible. If all these stories are true, and if this is true, this would be the craziest thing of all time. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here, and we're going to jump right into things as we always do. And if you guys like the content, make sure to subscribe to Jets Digest. 18% of viewers are subscribed to the channel. Let's help it out. Let's get it to where Matt's hand can go so we can get closer and just get more subscribers out as we're on the road to 2K. But let's jump into it, guys. Now, as we all know, the New York Jets have not been the most functional franchise of all time. We all know that to be a fact. And The Athletic recently dropped an absolute bombshell of what really goes behind the scenes with Woody Johnson, his family, and just the New York Jets as a whole, and why Joe Douglas is better off having been fired from the New York Jets. But we're also going to try to not make this some big downer story that, we just mope the whole time, because no one wants to see that. Now, it is important to mention right before we jump into this fully that The Athletic, they are a reliable source. But Aaron Rodgers has had a lot of problems with the way that Diana Rossini, one of the most common Jets reporters for The Athletic, goes about her business. He accused her of character assassination on Zach Wilson. He himself has had some other problems with her, essentially saying that he doesn't really talk to her at all. But let's jump into this, guys, because there has just been some absolute straight-up insanity that has recently come out. Now, in a report that came out today, The Athletic mentioned that Joe Douglas and his Broncos counterpart in George Patton were deep in negotiations for a trade that would have sent Jerry Jeudy to the Jets and given Aaron Rodgers more playmakers to deal with, and the deal was very close until it all fell apart because Douglas told the Broncos that Woody Johnson didn't want to make the trade because the owner felt that Jerry Jeudy's player rating in Madden was too low compared to Mike Williams, who was an 87, so we saw that, which is just absolutely an absurd take whatsoever. And what we've also seen is Jerry Jeudy come out and say that's probably not true, saying, to be honest, I don't believe that. I think it's fake news. Why would somebody look at a Madden rating be real? I don't think that, but it is a funny story. Now, Matt, we have a lot more to talk about, so we're just going to kind of go back and forth very quickly. Do you think this is true, that this actually happened?
It makes more sense to side with Jerry Jeudy right here because he's completely right. Why would anyone look at a Madden rating to determine how good the player is in real life? Everyone who's played Madden understands that the ratings aren't perfect. They had Breece Hall like an 84, when at least coming into this year, it should have been at least like a 94 or something. He was supposed to be one of the best running backs in the league, but they had him almost outside the top 10. Madden doesn't really know what they're doing. Of course, a lot of the top guys are going to be ranked really highly, but not all their rankings are perfect. But the problem that I have with this is Woody Johnson doesn't play Madden. He doesn't know anything about Madden. Why would he look at Madden ratings? This part of the story, there are a lot of parts of this report that make a lot of sense and that are true. But this doesn't smell right to me, Chris, because doing things based off how Madden, something that Woody Johnson doesn't care about, has rated players, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think this story is true, though. I do think Woody Johnson probably did thwart the Jerry Jeudy trade in more of a whole. It's hard to believe it's because of Madden. Now, moving on, because we do have a lot to talk about, an anonymous former Jets executive talked to The Athletic and said the Jets keep doing the same thing over and over again. They change football people. The football people are not the issue. It's, hey, I have brain cancer, and, well, just cut off your foot is essentially the Jets' reaction. And what that's being alluded to is the fact that the New York Jets just completely do something that doesn't connect to a root problem. And yes, that's been true, but the root problem is Woody Johnson, and there's not much you could do about that outside of get Luigi to come handle it.
That quote was insane. I actually have not heard that quote up until this very moment, and it makes sense because that's what the Jets do. They make quick changes that aren't actually solving any problems. So that makes a ton of sense. When you're a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 14 straight years, it's not one coach, it's not one GM, it's not one player who's a problem, it's ownership. So absolutely, Woody Johnson is the one common factor, absolutely the number one reason why the New York Jets have failed so many years, and he's the number one reason why they continue to fail even up to this day.
Yeah, and I mean, looking into this, it doesn't ever stop. I mean, when the Jets traded Zach Wilson to the Broncos last April, Denver asked Douglas to include the final pick of the draft, 257th overall, according to a source familiar with the negotiations. Johnson instructed Joe Douglas to instead trade the 256th overall pick, with the Jets also owned, so New York could select Mr. Irrelevant, the final pick of the draft, who's annually celebrated upon his selection. And then the source said, can you believe it? He thought he needed Mr. Irrelevant to pick a Brock Purdy. That sounds like something Woody Johnson would do for a media blitz. And also, just to be clear, the Jets did have Mr. Irrelevant, a safety, who got waived before his first season even began.
Jalen Key out of Alabama is who the New York Jets picked. If you forgot about him, can't blame you for forgetting about him. He hasn't played at all for the Jets. Woody Johnson, this is right up his alley. He's looking for moves that are going to make a social media, remember that term, it's coming back, social media splash. He wants to make the Jets into something that people are talking about, and he doesn't seem to care whether they're talking about how well they're playing on the field or just how big the moves are. And making that celebrated Mr. Irrelevant pick, that is something that at least a couple of people are going to talk about. People who really focus on the draft and care about the draft don't care about Mr. Irrelevant, but for some reason, some people do, and Woody Johnson is clearly in the group of people who thinks that Mr. Irrelevant actually matters. Whether he thinks he's getting a Brock Purdy out of that doesn't make sense because the Jets didn't draft a quarterback, but that's absolutely right up Woody Johnson's alley, thinking that he would be able to get a Brock Purdy-like player just because he picked him last in the drafts. Could you imagine trading away an earlier pick just so you can hold on to a later pick just because of like a title? It's ridiculous, Chris. Let's get to the next topic.
I just want to say I fully think that's 100% true. That is the most Woody Johnson thing I've ever heard, dude.
Absolutely. That is the easiest rumor to believe of this entire article because we have seen him time and time again. He wants to make the social media splash. He wants people talking about the New York Jets. He wants people talking about his thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Irrelevant, just a couple more people talking about it.
It's so insane, dude. I will say very quickly, because we do have to move on to the next topic, because we're going fast here. I do that in Madden when I'm playing, just to bring Madden back into this. So maybe Joe Douglas is actually running this team like someone runs Madden. I do just want to say. But yeah, let's go. Let's keep it moving. Now, when Woody Johnson left for the United Kingdom in 2017 to go work for Donald Trump's cabinet, or not exactly the cabinet, as an advisor, or not an advisor, as an ambassador to England, his sons, Brick and Jack, great names, were 11 and 9, respectively, and when he returned, they were teenagers. Last year, Johnson stated including his sons in some meetings at the team facility. For some Jets employees, the sons' increasing involvement clarified their father's propensity, I can't read, for sharing posts from Twitter and articles from various outlets, including a blog called Jets X Factor, which I think many of us look at and will enjoy reading, but it's a blog after all. And I know what we do is basically the same thing. I'm not trashing Jets X Factor. I'm trashing Woody Johnson for making decisions off that. Woody Johnson shouldn't make decisions off what we say. With the organization's top decision makers, when we're discussing things, you'll hear Woody cite something that Brick or Jack read online that's being weighed equally against whatever opinion someone else in the department has had, said one Jets executive. I mean, I understand that when Woody's no longer a part of this planet, his sons are going to take over the team. I get that. And that's fine. That's what
didn't even think of that. Oh, man, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, dude, like that's what's going to happen. So he's integrating them early so they have a familiarity with the job. That is an understandable thing. Specifically, I'm not trying to go out there and trash Woody as a parent. I have no idea what it's like to be a parent, thank God. And on top of that, I don't know what Woody Johnson's like as a dad. Maybe he's an awesome dad. I mean, he's bringing his kids to work. That's kind of cool. He's setting them up with a huge, cool job where they'll never have to work a day in their life for money. So, well, neither did Woody, actually. But that's beside the point. Look, I mean, where they are now, I understand that maybe that's not the worst idea to bring them in early. The problem is if they're being brought in this young, they're going to know that they could do basically what their dad did. Just whatever they say gets to go at the end of the day, which is terrifying.
The bad thing about this report, this particular point, is that it's also true because we've heard rumors that the Suns are running the show. So now that this report comes out, pretty much confirming those rumors that we gloss over them because we thought that can't be true, right? But if the Athletics picking it up, absolutely wholeheartedly believe this now. And the only question that we need to be asking Brick is where he got that hand grenade. not how to run the New York Jets.
Yeah. Dude, this is not cool of me to say. I'm not going to go into detail, but I just saw Brick Johnson's Instagram profile picture, and it just annoyed me. It just annoyed me. Like,
was it sick at least? Like his dad's rich.
Yeah, he looked cool as hell,
something?
dude. He had some sunglasses on and some tropical background, smoking a cigar. Like he looked cool.
Didn't you just say he was 11?
No, he was 11.
He's actually like 7
now.
He's 18 now.
If he was an 11-year-old smoking a cigar, I'd be like, yo, that is sick.
Then that would be a cool profile picture then, huh?
It would be, but then I'd actually be able to trash Woody Johnson as a parent. But his son smoking cigars at 18, which is perfectly fine. People smoke cigars after they graduate high school sometimes, so no worries there. But as Joe Douglas said, I answer to a teenager. Why?
Because it makes sense, right? Teenagers know a lot about football.
Yeah, they play Madden.
They play Madden. They play fantasy football. And if you're a parent watching this, your teenagers know everything. You already know that.
Facts. Good point. Everyone knows the teenagers across the board are always smart. They never make dumb decisions or anything like that.
The thing about that is the only person that knows how smart teenagers are is teenagers. So they're the perfect people for the job.
Dude, my problem, I will say my problem with these Johnson brothers right now, Woody's kids, they're both in shape. When are we going to get some fat guys running the show, dude? I will never stop talking about fat people.
We had a fat guy running the show, and all he did was draft 2-time All-Pro Sauce Gardner, Pro Bowl level Breece Hall, potentially All-Pro level Garrett Wilson, brought in an ex-legend in Aaron Rodgers. He's still a legend, but ex-MVP caliber quarterback, and the second best quarterback season, potentially the best quarterback season by stats in New York Jets history. That's all he did. And it probably didn't come from up, I can't point to his head anymore, but it probably didn't come from his head. It came from his gut, obviously. That's why they call it a gut decision. That's why we need a fat head coach and a fat GM.
Fat people rule the world, or at least they rule the New York Jets if they're going to win. They just run football. Football's a fat guy sport. It's why you're supposed to just eat while you play football.
Andy Reid, case closed. He's literally ordering off of a Denny's menu while he calls plays.
That's the coolest thing of all time. We stan Andy Reid. But the Johnson family's behavior inside the Jets locker room, this is also probably the craziest part about all of this, has become an issue. This year on Halloween night, the Jets registered their first victory since Robert Saleh's firing. Speaking of eating, I was shoveling cheese curds and beer that night. And guess what? That's what a fat person would do. So my point stands. Rodgers walked into an energized locker room with the game ball in hand. It's obviously expected to be given to Jeff Ulbrich with his first ever career win as a head coach. But before Rodgers could speak, Brick Johnson took another game ball and awarded it to Garrett Wilson in a profanity-laced exclamation, because everyone knows, like, if you're a teenager, that cursing in front of adults is what makes you cool, which the owner's son later posted to Instagram. Woody Johnson then gave Ulbrich the ball Rodgers had been holding. Multiple players said the energy drained out of the room because instead of your quarterback, who's an NFL legend, giving the ball to his head coach, the owner does it. Like, he gets to be cool and part of this, and his son's just cursing in front of everyone. Mind you, there's a little bit more while we're talking about it. In 2022, quarterback Mike White played through broken ribs in a late season game against the Seahawks with postseason hopes on the line. White played poorly, the Jets lost and were eliminated from playoff contention, and after the game, with the quarterback in the showers after throwing his helmet to the locker room floor, multiple Jets players said they heard Woody Johnson say, "You should throw your helmet, you effing suck." The statement got back to White. The team spokesperson then said Woody Johnson apologized to Mike White. I'm going to guess all of that's true. I'm going to guess the entirety of it is true. Both the apology, him saying that. I'm going to guess it's true.
It probably is true because Woody Johnson, unfortunately, is not the right player for the right owner for the team. Going back to the people going into the locker room, we're wondering why this team has no chemistry. It's because we're talking about how the team has no leaders. They are not even allowing people to be leaders in the locker room. How could even Aaron Rodgers be the leader if the owner is the guy who's allowed to hand out game balls and they're not even there's no energy being gained. The team can't get momentum from the owner's sons being in the locker room. They can't truly be themselves. They can't make the same kinds of connections with their fellow players that they would be able to make had them not be in the locker room. Also, we're hearing Woody Johnson, his kids are bringing their friends into the locker room too. Ridiculous.
Including
That
girls.
should never be. That should just never be okay.
That's so weird.
I understand it's a cool experience. You can bring them into the building, the training room, maybe even out onto the field while they're practicing.
Or an empty locker room. I've been in the Jets locker room when it's empty. I'm not looking at Sam Darnold butt naked. Okay. Unfortunately. For me.
That actually sounds really cool. I wish I could go to the Jets locker room when no one was inside of it. But
shout out my high
when
school.
when they're the football team's in the locker room, no one should be in the locker room. Yeah. Media is allowed in, which is the NFLPA, the Players Association. They're trying to get rid of that, and they honestly should get rid of that.
I mean, female media are no longer allowed in because it's a weird setting for them, and there's been so many SA harassments or
exactly.
SH.
Like, you could say what you want, but that is just a layup. That's an easy thing that should not be allowed on your football team. And Woody Johnson allows it because he doesn't care. He just wants to be.
He wants to look cool.
I was just about to say that. He wants to be the cool uncle.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same reason why Brick and whatever the other one's name is, Brick and Nick or something like that. I'm sorry.
I don't care. Don't pretend like you care.
But I don't care. That's why I don't remember his name. But like, I get it. They're trying to be cool and use their money and their dad's job to bring their friends into the locker room, and it's cool of them to do that. It is. Oh, don't bring girls in, dude. That's weird.
I mean, I'm not. If your dad allowed you to do that, I think I would maybe do that if I was their kids. I would maybe do it. I don't know.
The thing is, probably my dad would be like, "No, you're not going in when the players are they're naked."
That's
dude.
What I'm saying. It's on Woody. Woody has to be the one who says, "No, you're not allowed to do that."
Yeah, because understandably at their age they would, and they're correct to think that because teenagers are dumb, as we all know. But yeah, look, it's a whole bunch of stuff that happened. It's why we made this long video on it, because there's just so much to cover with this damn story. And look, there's a good chance that some of this is not true at all because The Athletic has had problems with Aaron Rodgers. And while Matt reads down that list like he's the Wheel of Fortune girl, which is actually Matt's dream job. He's told me the entire time that he hopes to turn this into the Wheel of Fortune girl, where he just like wears the dress and poses. That's his dream.
I wish.
But look,
we can't have everything we want.
We can't even have a good Jets team because Woody Johnson's an insane person. But look, between the Madden ratings, the following advice from his teenage sons based off what they see on Twitter, the Zach Wilson stuff for Mr. Irrelevant, Woody Johnson bringing his kids and their friends into the locker room, the John Simpson awareness thing on Madden, which I think is just BS. There's been so much going on. And
so did we talk about that? Did we talk about that in the video?
We talked about Madden, John Simpson. Yeah. It just goes back into the Madden thing. And we could talk about that in a second. But something I do want to bring up real quick on the Zach Wilson thing and the Mike White thing. I think one of the reasons why I think this is true, because we all know that Woody Johnson knows Zach Wilson's family, and that's why Zach Wilson got drafted to the Jets. I think Woody Johnson was probably just angry that someone took his friend's kid's job, and his friend probably wasn't too thrilled that the team he owned benched their kid. I'm gonna go on a limb and say that has to all be connected. It's certainly too much of a coincidence.
Certainly a high likelihood.
Yeah, but John Simpson, real quick, Matt, because somehow it's been 18 minutes. It feels like it's been 3.
Oh, okay, yeah. So Woody Johnson didn't want John Simpson because the story goes his awareness rating was too low on Madden. Also, one more thing we can say from the article, Woody Johnson is having his sons, we might have said this, having his sons read stuff off of social media, and then it is being weighed as heavily as the decisions made by the actual football minds in the room. And of course, that should never work. I don't like that because I looked up a couple months ago, after Saleh was fired, I looked up ranking all the owners in the NFL. And 2 years ago, there was an article where Woody Johnson was put at 30, and the last line was, "It seems like the decisions he makes are based on who the last person he talked to was or the last thing that he read off social media." And I was like, wow, that 2 years ago, this today, just spot on. Just spot on.
Well, Woody, we'll never understand you. I don't get it. I'll never get it.
If Brick has another hand grenade, please tell me where he got it. I need it.
Yeah. Brick, you're an interesting character. Hopefully you get things right when you're the owner one day. Sorry if I made fun of your social media post. Honestly, as I said, I don't really care. But I don't want to get banned from the Jets. And also, I don't know. I wish I had the money you had. Congrats, man. You got born into a sick system as did your dad. And good for you, man. I'm happy for you. Go have fun with your life, Brick. Enjoy being the Jets owner. Woody, I don't know. Go away, please. Go Jets. Subscribe.